Welcome back to our channel, San Luis Obispo Real Estate. This is Jay Bond Real Estate Group, brokered by eXp Realty. If you're tuning in for our video, should I sell my San Luis Obispo County home in 2026? You have tuned in to the absolute correct location. Now, if you're looking for a custom home evaluation, and I'm not talking about just an automated report, I will personally review the report before we send it out to you. Make sure you click on that link in our video description or the pinned comment and follow that form. So what's going on in San Luis Obispo County? Should I sell my home this year, 2026? Well, you know what? That's not a simple question to answer. Let's take a step in right now and dive into what's taking place in the San Luis Obispo market currently. Now, average days on market is 57 days. Now, that is actually down slightly from an average of 62 days last year, right, in 2025. Now, inventory is very low still. Now, what does that typically mean when inventory is low? Well, demand stays relatively consistent. Now, that has been the really environment we've been in for the last 4 years since rates had trended up in April of 22. Now, that has really, in my opinion, been the saving grace for property owners as far as maintaining property values in the range that they have been in. Meaning if inventory was to increase, we would actually see that put downward pressure on values and watch values trend down a little bit. Now, overall, they've held pretty darn well the last few years because of the lack of inventory, right? There's still a low supply of homes, which is keeping demand consistent. Now, does that mean there's 15, 20 buyers chomping at the bit for your property like there was 6 years ago? No, but you know what? There are 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the product, maybe a little bit more, who are interested, right? Who do qualify, who can move on product. Now, what is actually moving pretty darn well? Well, I would say the higher end homes, believe it or not, are moving pretty well. Why is that? Well, you know what? There's kind of 2 schools of thought, right? You have buyers who are a little bit more impacted, or greatly more impacted, if you will, by the interest rate environment because it impacts affordability, right? Their monthly mortgage, what they can afford to buy when it comes to a home in San Luis Obispo County and the Central Coast. And so they're saying, gosh, you know, I don't want my monthly mortgage to be more than $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000, right? I don't want to be eating top ramen and a cup of noodles every day just because my wife wants this really nice house here in San Luis Obispo. Now, then there's the other folks who have cash, right? They might be in the 2 million plus range shopping for homes. Now, that audience is a little bit different. Could they be getting a home loan? Sure, very possible, but a lot of them do have cash. And sometimes, hey, if money's cheap to borrow, meaning if interest rates are low, like they were, you know, a few years back, it makes more sense to borrow money and use someone else's to buy my real estate. But guess what? When interest rates are higher and property values are higher, it actually makes more sense and it's more affordable for me to use my own cash to buy my home or buy a property versus securing a home loan, right? Now, people in the lower price points, sub 2 million, don't always have that luxury or ability. So thus you can see, you know, how it's impacting that buyer spectrum. Now, are homes sitting? Not necessarily, you know, and I think a lot of agents, a lot of brokers, and a lot of buyers who've been out in the swamps there trenching through the last couple years, or at least this year, I have noticed that, hey, if a home is priced well, meaning it's priced around what similar homes are selling for, it will typically move within a few weeks or sooner in still a multiple offer situation. So Jay, great question, great topic. Does that mean I'm going to be overpaying for a home right now in this marketplace? That's not the case, right? And as far as seller is concerned, right, am I going to be getting more than market value for my home? I don't believe that's the scenario right now, right? So what I mean is there's a good chance you might fetch maybe more than the next guy for a similar product, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that right now just because of the diminished urgency in the marketplace, right? So really, let's go back to, should I sell my home? Now, there's a lot of factors involved with should you sell your home. Some people have to sell their home, right? Maybe they have a job relocation. Maybe they're retiring and they just said, hey, I can't afford to retire in California, right? Once I stop working, I need to move to a different, maybe more affordable or more tax-friendly state. those people are kind of in a pickle where they have to sell, right? Other folks maybe want that bigger home, right? They want that extra bedroom, but they're tied in with a cushy high 2 or low 3% interest rate from a few years back when they bought or refinanced, and they may not want to give up that interest rate, right? So from an affordability standpoint, they may say, hey, I don't want to sell my home, even though I need that extra bedroom, or we've got that new baby on the way, or whatever it may be, right? Now, there are also the folks maybe downsizing, right? Maybe they had someone unfortunately pass in their family. They lost a spouse. They're widowed now. They don't need all that home now, right? So maybe those folks also need to sell. And again, what is the biggest question mark when selling, right? Regardless of the motivation, price. Hey, what is my home going to sell for in today's market? Now, again, if you want a custom home valuation report of what your home is worth, click on the link in the description of this video, and I will personally tailor a report that we will send to you. Now, when it comes to prospective buyer audience, right, let's kind of dissect again our county as a whole. Now, as we all know, San Luis Obispo County, Central Coast is a beautiful place to live, right? Moderate weather, the whole bit. Now, however, as I've discussed in previous videos, and anyone who lives here knows, there's not a lot of industry, right? And so there are some job relocations to the marketplace, providing salaries for said people moving to the market that can help them afford to buy a home and live here. Now, again, that's more of a smaller audience, right? We do get a lot of retirees relocating from the larger cities, perhaps Central Valley of California, Northern California, right? Bay Area, Los Angeles, coming in and retiring, investing, or getting second homes here, right? That's still a lot of our audience. And then, of course, you have the families who are the kind of historic, move up life cycle buyers, right? Move up and move down type of buyers that are always going to be here. But relocations, again, are kind of a smaller audience. I get that question a lot, so I wanted to bring up that topic. Now, let's really delve into who should sell right now, right? And who should maybe consider waiting. I know I touched base on that earlier in this video as far as folks sitting on comfortable interest rates, right? So beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it really boils down to, do I want to spend more money, right? And maybe impact my quality of life for more house? That's your decision, ultimately. But that's something you really want to analyze. Do I want to get out of my cushy 2 or 3% interest rate right now and get into something that is going to cost a lot more money to buy? That's your analysis, right? And that's your decision. There's no one that can tell you what's right or wrong. You know what type of risk you want to take when it comes to selling and buying. Now, who should wait, right? Perhaps those people who should sell. Who should sell really boils down to necessity. There are, again, lifestyle changes that are going to impact your decision that you can't escape from. You may have to sell because of some changes with work, life, family, whatever it may be. Those are the folks who should sell, or the people who have the demand. Hey, Jay, like we said before, we've got another baby coming. We know it's going to cost more. We really need to sell our current home and move into a larger home. Or Jay, hey, you know what? Our kids are moved out of the house. They've gone to college. They're gone. They're living out of area. It's just my wife and I, just my husband and I. Hey, we need to downsize. We don't need all this house, right? So there are people who should be selling still, and there are people who may just want to wait based on affordability. Now, as always, if you have questions, give us a call. We're happy to be a sounding board for you. And again, if you want a custom valuation report of your home, click on the link in the description of this video. I'll make sure I'll personally tailor it. Again, this is not an automated report. I will hand generate and create this report for you, so it is very applicable and very real and tangible for your home. Thanks for tuning in.